All right, so here we go. cnHeat is orderable today, and we have two main features. We have a heat map, and I'll give a demonstration for that, and then we can optimize sites, and I'll explain what site optimization is. cnHeat supports 450 at 5 and 3.5 gigahertz line of sight EPMP. If you have other bands that you want support for, we are going to support that in the future. And just reach out to us. So if you, and we'll give you like an update. So if you have any interest in 900 or 2 gig, and we'll figure out like a near line of sight, non line of sight. We're starting to work through that. And also, if you have other products that are of interest to you too, such as Ubiquity or anything like that, we'd be glad to help you out. Just reach out to us too, and we can give you further explanations. So if you want, we'll go through and do a quick demo of cnHeat at the cnHeat.cambiumnetworks.com website. And you can go there at any time to check it out. The demo account is cnHeat, all lowercase, and the password is demo. So let's go there right now. Okay.
Welcome to the webinar.
Okay, so here we have a cnHeat website, and we chose Emporia, Kansas. It's no one's ISP or anything like that. It's just simply a city that would be a good demonstration for cnHeat, and we have the GIS data for it. You'll see here that we have 3 sites, and they're called Tower 1, Tower 2, Tower 3, and then in all of the sites, what we have is you have the ability to have 2 cnHeat heat maps from it. You have a 1 foot above the building or the clutter and the earth, and you have 10 feet above. And the reason why we provide 2 of these is you can choose an optimal installation height, and you can choose like a worst case installation height. And then you can, by doing both heat maps, you can see basically which is the right, gives you an indication of how to install on the customer, let them know in advance. Okay, so let's zoom into the heat map here. The first one I'm going to do after I zoom in a little bit is turn off towers 2 and 3. Okay, so if I go into tower 1 and I just turn on the 1 foot heat map, try to give you an example of what it is and why it works, and it does what we provide, it says it does. So here's Tower 1, and if we look to the west-northwest, there's a Methodist church here in Emporia. And if we zoom into the Methodist church, what we see is we see the actual heat map. And with the 1 foot SM above the height, we're seeing that you can get service on the roof. And you'll notice that if you go 1 foot down on the pitch of the roof, you stop getting service. So that's kind of what we're doing, is we have very accurate GIS data, and we marry it up to the actual photograph of the earth, and you can get a real representation or a prediction of what's going to happen there. If we look to the east, we see that there are 3 homes right there that might call in for service for you. The home at the top, if they were to call in, they have a little way to shoot in between the trees there, and it's just on the back side of the house. It might be impossible to figure this out if you were a normal installer beforehand. You might think maybe there's not even service, but in advance, if you have a 1 foot mount, you could tell the customer when they called, hey, you can mount on the back of the house, and is that okay? The second house calls up, and you can say to them, no, we can't really provide you service, and you don't have to waste a truck roll. And the third one is actually there's no trees in front, because the big trees are right here, right? There's no tree here, and you can shoot over these trees, and you can basically say, I do have service right here to you. So you have 3 homes that are all right next to each other, but they have wildly different results on connectivity based on the trees that are growing between them and the tower. Now, if we were to turn on the 10-foot pole, then we see that you have much more places to mount on the top house, and on the bottom house is completely free. Now, if we look at the middle house, you might say, oh, there's some chance to mount there, but that's not true, because if we look at this closer, that's actually a tree right here. So it's saying that you can mount on a 10-foot pole. At the very back of the house, there might be an ability to mount, and the reason for that is you're getting over the pitch of the roof here at the 10 feet, and you're probably just barely, because you're far enough back, starting to get an angle above these trees. And so you might be able to provide a ray of hope to the customer, or you might just say no. So these are some of the options that cnHeat gives you to be able to know in advance. And you can see here that when we increase the 10-foot pole, you can go down the pitch of the roof 10 feet and be able to do the same thing. It kind of indicates that the 10-foot pitch does work, or the pole does work. Okay, now let's go exit the cnHeat right here, and we'll go back to the presentation. Okay. So how is it that cnHeat works, and why does it work? Okay, so what we use is we use high resolution GIS data. And as the example, down here at the lower right of the corner is an access point, and the upper left of the corner is another church. And what we'll see here is if you look at 1 meter GIS data, it gives you a pretty accurate representation of what the earth looks like. Like you're looking at the GIS data and you're like, wow, that is actually what's there. There's the building, there's the back of this church, there's the front part of the church, and then there's the path along the way with trees. And if we look at like the path profile, you'll see that here's the back of the church building where you have the service, or for the RF. And then here's the front of the church, and it reflects an accurate like representation of what the church looks like. And then along the way, you see various higher points, and these are the trees. And so there's 2 high points that are marked. There's one here and there's one here. And we can see that the value is 120 meters and 121 meters. And these are the points that are going to say whether you get service or not from this access point to the far right. Now, if we compare that to 10-meter GIS data, which is used in other tools, this is the reason why there's problems with using tools that don't, if we don't have the high resolution data, is what happens here is now everything's blurry. This is the reflection. It takes an averaging of everything. And if we look at the 2 high points for the trees, we'll notice that the average of the tree heights around it has lowered the height to 114 meters and 113 meters. What that does is that's like 20, 25 feet that has now changed from what the reality is. And the result of that is you can get false positives. So this is a reason why it's good to use this high resolution GIS data. We have a couple questions here. Let me get them. The first one is, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
We've got one. We've actually got 2 from Jeremy. Does this tool incorporate any clutter data, and is it using a LiDAR database?
This tool does use clutter data, and that's we import the data. And if the GIS data just simply needs to be high resolution, 1 meter. And one of the ways to do high resolution GIS data is through LiDAR. So the answer to Jeremy's question is right. Yes, we could use LiDAR data, or we can get other data. There's ways you can get data through, it's like photogrammetry. And so there's a very high resolution camera takes pictures of the ground, and from that you can create the actual representation of the terrain also.
Okay. One more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
He says, how frequently will you have updated GIS data for the model?
That's an excellent question. So oftentimes to collect the data, the free GIS data, if it's collected, it's done often by governments, and it's not cheap to do, and they're doing it for us. And so when the data is collected, usually they don't go back and collect it for a significant amount of time. It could be something like, I don't know, 10 years or 12 years. So then the question might go, if it's older data like that, is it really going to be accurate, and will it work? And I think the answer back to this is we think so. And from what else we've seen very positive results with customers who've tried it with older data. So for example, if you had data, let's say from 2010, and then since then they built a new subdivision, then this won't represent that correctly. The new subdivision won't be represented. And if for some reason someone planted some new trees and they grew, that would cause the data to not reflect correctly also. What we're seeing though, if you don't have the new subdivisions, let's say, and the general like representation of the vegetation or the trees seems to be fairly static. In other words, once the trees in a location get to a certain height, they don't seem to change too much. And so we have customers with older data, and they do the predictions, and the predictions work well. So I'd like to relate back to you that yes, it's good. We do want newer data, and it takes the government maybe sometimes 10, 12 years to take it again. But the data seems to hold pretty well, and the predictions that we get for the customers that we see is very well, and they get good results. But of course, yes, if you have a new house or subdivision and it wasn't there when the data was taken, that would be a problem. So really good question, Larry. Thank you. Okay, so let's go forward. This is an example installation from one of our customers, and cnHeat said there's no way this beautiful home that this one of our WISPs has for their end customer could get service because they have so many beautiful trees, right? Trees bad for wireless. And so we wondered, is cnHeat wrong? And our customer also sent us, here's a picture of the actual install, and here's the service we were getting. And just about when we started investigating this, we wanted to figure out what potentially could be going wrong. The customer called us. At the same time, we realized that actually cnHeat, the pole was mounted here, the customer was mounted here, and what we see is cnHeat actually predicted that was the one location that you get service. So we were pretty excited about this, and so what this kind of indicated is this service provider had an excellent installer, and probably what also happened is it took him lots and lots of times to optimize the location and find the location. What we wanted to point out here is that with cnHeat, you would know the one location in advance, and you would save yourself a lot of time in that process of manually finding the location with your very experienced and good installers, installation engineers. The second thing to point out is it's often easy to miss a location like this, and you might say to a customer that you don't have service. So if you purchase cnHeat, you can go back through all of your old failed customer install records, and you might go back through them and say you have 30, 40, or 100 of them for a site. You can go back and find the ones that you actually do have service for. And then when you do that, that's a way to then go back and offer them service, and you can get the service, and you can then start increasing your customer base and pay for cnHeat just like that. Okay. There's another feature that we have is site optimization. We had a request, it's like, well, and this might pertain especially for like a greenfield site. It's like we haven't quite figured out where the site is. This is where we think it's going to be, but we could optimize it. And so for a small incremental cost above the normal cost to install the site, what we'll do for you is we'll allow you to take a site and move it up to like 600 feet and change other parameters too if you want to in the AP and SM, and try to optimize that site so you can figure out the best way to do the site before you deploy it, and you can save yourself lots of money. And so, and what we'll do is we'll give you all the heat maps. We'll give you the original heat map, and then we'll give you the site optimization heat map. Okay, what I wanted to do here is talk about what are the values that a cnHeat prediction can give you. And the four areas we'll talk about are the installation time that you save. You'll also have an efficiency to your truck rolls. You'll have a quick indication of go or no go that you can do when a customer calls you up. And then you can, as I said earlier, find previously failed installs. We have a nice video. If you want to, you can go to YouTube with the link. I'll provide the slides to ISP Supplies. You contact them and Blake, and he can give you a set of the slides, and you can check out the YouTube video. And it's quite excellent. I didn't do it. I was amazed at what the person did. So first benefit is save time and money on the install. So it's similar to like what I showed you earlier on the demonstration, is you can know on the green installs right here exactly where to install in advance, and so you can efficiently plan your equipment back at the shop, and then the installer can go straight to the location and install there. And similarly, you can warn the customer exactly where you're going to install, what kind of equipment, making sure it's okay. And then also where the red arrow is pointing, you can understand that that home doesn't have service, even though the ones next to it may have service. and you can avoid the truck roll altogether, or figure out some other way to satisfy the customer by putting in like maybe a micropop or a relay AP there. Okay, so that's the first benefit. And if we look at this from how much will this save me time and money, just some questions for you to consider is how many installations do you do per month on the site? What's your percentage of successful installations at the site? How much time do you save on a successful installation by knowing where to install in advance? And how much time do you save by avoiding a failed truck roll? And of course, what's your all-in cost per like hour for an installation? You know, labor, your truck, your insurance, your gas, all those things. So just a little quick like example spreadsheet, but really it's something you just consider for yourself is we've tried to show 3 different like examples. Like one would be a worst case maybe example. You do many installs per month at a site, and there's lots and lots of trees. Like, you know, it's a very tree area, let's say like the east coast of the U.S. And then the worst case example, there's a medium, but the worst case might be, well, maybe I'm in a very dry, arid location. Maybe I'm West Texas or Wyoming, and I do very few installations on this site because it's a mature site. And so I'll kind of go through both of those. So for the first example, we might do like 10 sites and 6 of them succeed, but 4 of them fail on average with the current tools you use. But with cnHeat, if we can understand which ones fail in advance, we avoid 4 of these failed truck rolls at 2 hours each. And on the other 6 that work, maybe you're able to optimize your truck roll by 30 minutes. So what this does, if you pay $50 an hour all in cost, is you're saving yourself 11 hours of total time, which is $550 a month or $20,000 over the course of 3 years. And even on this more of a worst case site, if you do like 3 installs and they're all successful, but for some reason you're able to because of cnHeat, you're able to increase your efficiency of your truck roll by 30 minutes, you still might save yourself an hour and a half at that site a month, which is $75, which is $2,700 a year. Okay. Second area where you can get efficiency is we can decrease the time per install, which means you can do more installs per day. And so other questions to consider that is what's your percentage of successful installs? What's your percentage of installs that would be easy if they were done and they would have succeeded? And how much time does it take to do an easy install? And the installs that are difficult to do, how much time does it take to do a difficult install? So if we look at this and go to another thing, I show 2 different examples here. I show, like, let's say it's fairly arid, it's more like, you know, a more arid desert-like environment or less trees. Installations without cnHeat and installations with cnHeat. So without cnHeat, we might succeed like 85% of the time, but maybe 20% of the times the installs are easy just by going out there, but the other 80% they're not easy. With cnHeat, you may not know everything in advance, so now you have a high percentage of success, and you have a high percentage of easier installs. So if the time for an easy install is an hour and the time for a difficult install is 2 hours or failed truck roll is 2 hours, what happens is the average time per install will decrease without cnHeat from 1.83 hours, just under 2 hours, to a little over 1 hour, and you're getting a high addition of installs per day. So of course that's help your business out in many different ways, as you understand better than I do. Okay, now another advantage is what you can do is with cnHeat, and we showed it, you can have an untrained customer service representative who can take a phone call and within say a minute can let the person know whether they can expect to have service or whether they cannot expect to have service, and therefore as an end customer, they're much more happier knowing an answer within a quick period of time. Like, yeah, I'm going to get service and I can count on it, or I can't get service and through that. And you can also know like where you're going to mount and stuff like that too. So that's a third advantage with cnHeat. A fourth advantage we talked about earlier is, say you had cnHeat, you put it on a site, and you've had like 50 failed installs in the past there. You can use cnHeat to go back and look at each of your different installs, and now you can say, maybe I can hit 10% of those because they're in weird locations, and we can actually do the installation. So you can let these go back to the customer to let them know it might be a way to generate revenue and increase your average revenue per customer because you have more customers. Okay. So now let's get into, yes, please go ahead.
We've got a few more good questions here if you want to check these out.
Yes, that would be great.
Jeremy, again, he says, is there any roadmap for 900 megahertz support?
Yes, we want to support 900 megahertz. So what you can do is when you make the request, download the template and submit it to ISP Supplies. Include into there the frequency you want, 900, because we're actually working on the near line of sight, non-line of sight model. Okay. And so in the near future, we'll work with you. We'll reach out to you and discuss it with you, and we can get that set up for you or tell you a time frame or work with you on actually doing it. So just to let everyone, consider a little bit is when you have 900 megahertz, you're going to be shooting into a tree. And then as you go through the trees, you're going to have prop loss, and when you come out, you won't. So, and there's different densities of trees, so we would have to work that out with you. But yeah, we want to help you with 900 megahertz.
Okay, and we've got a question on cost. Are you going to be going over that?
Yes, that's later on in the slides.
Okay, and the next one is, from Daniel, he says, so we are already inputting all of the data about APs and SMs into Link Planner. This is taking it a step further with showing GIS data. Will cnHeat be incorporated into Link Planner or vice versa? Seems to be doubling up on tools.
Great question. So first off, if you have a cnHeat Link Planner project already created, you can submit that instead of the template that we provide you, and we'll use that and configure the site information with that to do cnHeat. When we considered cnHeat, we looked at a couple different things, and with the link planner logic of doing point-to-point links, we want to do that. We thought what we wanted to do first off is to get the heat map done, and the fastest way that we did it was through the method of cnHeat. But absolutely true, it's two tools right now. We want to continue over time to take the goodness of Link Planner and integrate it with cnHeat. So they'll be emerging over time of both. But you are right now there's two different tools, and this was the best way that we could get the tool and the product to you in the quickest amount of time.
And Daniel's second question was, is this just for USA only?
No, this is worldwide. And I'll explain this, is we can do any site anywhere in the world, and there's two different ways we can do it. We can do it with freely available data that's available, and then if there isn't freely available data, we can purchase data for you. For freely available data, we have found data in other countries. So we have customer in Australia, there's data in New Zealand, there's other data in the Philippines, we found data Spain and Italy, these are examples, Poland, these are just various examples. So if you have an interest for cnHeat and you're in another country, in Canada, of course, there's data in Canada. Contact us and you provide your location information, and we'll provide you the answer as to whether there's free data or not, or whether we have to purchase data and what it means.
All right, one more. Kevin says, can you explain the colors on the coverage map, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I want to show you in just a little bit, but let's go through that, is I'll go back to the thing here, the demo. If we zoom out, we let you configure this yourself, and as part of the template information is different colors we can equate to different max RSSI levels. Min RSSI levels. So in this example, we show red, a light green, a bigger green, a darker green, and then there's actually, if we look at this, a little blue right down here. And this equates to the MCS levels for a 450 and what they could get at those different levels where you would see them at. But what we allow you to do with the template is we allow you to specify up to 6 RSSI levels that are important to you. So it may be that, I mean, you know your environment best and what packages you can offer for different RSSI levels because you have different interference at different locations. And so we allow you to specify the different RSSI levels you would like for each color. So an example is maybe you would start off with neg 55 as your red color or your first color. And so everything at neg 55 and up would be red. And your second like color, your RSSI level might be neg 62. So then you could make green anywhere from neg 62 to this neg 66. And so what we do is you can use all of the colors, all 6, or you can use a subset and however you need it to appear for the heat map, and we'll configure it for you in that way. Okay, I see there's other questions. Do you want to ask the other questions, Blake?
I think there's a few more, but we can address those towards the end of the webinar.
Okay, all right, sure, Blake. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So this is how we go about and you can order cnHeat. Is what you do is you go to the Cambium Networks webpage, but you can also go to the webpage that Blake mentioned again, which is ispsupplies.com/cnHeat. And you can go there and you can download a CSV template, which is providing us the site information that you want done for your site. Then what you do is you fill out the information and you can upload it from ISP Supplies website if you desire, and we'll get the information. And then what we'll do is we'll go off and figure out what your part numbers are that you need to order the site. So let me give an example of this CSV template information. All right, so if we show this here, and what I'm going to do is I'll make it bigger and just like, so it's easier to see, is then I'll slide across, is we need all this information filled out, and it's very helpful if you have it answered for all your stuff. That way we can make sure it's right. But we ask you simply for a site name, and if you have multiple sites, you'll put different names. Ask you for the APs that are at the site. And by the way, with cnHeat, if you want to put one AP at the site, it costs the same as if you want to put, multiple rings of cnHeat at the site. We'll charge you the same. Okay, so what we have here is we ask you for the latitude and the longitude of the APs, and we need the azimuth of where they're pointing, and then we need the tilt, the mechanical information, mechanical tilt, which is your down tilt, and then we need the AP that you're going to use. And then if you can specify your ARP, the default we have is max. We figure most people are going to be using max. We've had people come to us and say, we don't like max. We need it to be less for these reasons. And so then we will make the heat map exactly as you desire. Provide us the height of the APs and the frequency you're working at, and the SM that's your best gain SM that you would use, right? Because it's going to be over the whole map. You specify 2 SM heights, and it's like the way we understand it is specify the height of your normal install, and you specify the height of like a worst case install, and that way you can model both the cnHeat. And then you can specify the different RSSI levels that you would like to see the colors be associated with. So you can plan out your plan out everything. If you already have the site in cnHeat, or you plan to have it in cnHeat as part of the order, and you want a site optimization for a different location, you change this to yes, and then we'll do the site optimization service for you. But for new sites, this would be N for no. Okay, so let's go back here to the ordering process. And if we get this back to here. So once again, I showed you the template that you can download and fill out, and you upload that template, or you can upload your existing link planner project information, and it gets provided to us, and then we're going to tell you how to order it, and we'll go through that now. So the first thing that we do, because it's important, is we need to know what GIS data is available for a customer. So our first decision box here is we get your latitude and longitude, and we say, is there free compliant GIS data available? And if the answer is yes, we say fabulous. We go obtain it, we do the work to get it, and we don't charge you for the data. Okay. If the answer is no, and there's no free data available, and data has to be purchased, we give you an option. You can purchase the data from us, or you can go out on your own and and find someone to purchase the GIS data from, and then we'll do a quality assurance fee to make sure that the data is good. As we've worked with our own GIS data providers, we say, hey, get us this data, and sometimes there can be artifacts or errors in it, and they go, oh yeah, I see what you mean, we should fix it. So we need to make sure that that's good, and this is usually a fairly nominal cost. It's not too much. Okay, once you have the GIS data in place, then we'll provide you with the part information for how to purchase a site and a subscription for cnHeat. So there's two things here. There is, first, we have a site setup fee, and so that just pertains to every site. And then you select your subscription model. You can buy 1 year, or you can buy 3 years of subscription. And if you want to, you can pay it every quarter, and it's a decreased cost, or you can pay it up front. So if you want to go purchase 3 years, we give you 1 year for free. And so you're really getting 3 years for the price of 2 years. And then if you want to pay up front, we'll give you a 5% discount of paying up front as opposed to paying quarterly. So this comes back to, now we come back to the act. Oh, one other thing is with site optimization, if you already have your site set up with the subscription paid, then you can go ahead and order site optimization. All right, so here's the pricing. Is if we look at the site setup fee, we charge $262.50 for a site setup fee. And if you want to buy 1 year, it's $262.50, or if you want to pay it in 4 quarterly payments, it's $69 each. If you want 3 years, you'll see that the price is double of the 1 year at $525, and you will see that the 3-month subscription is at $46 every 3 months, which is 2/3 the price of the $69. The site optimization is $105, which is significantly less than the site itself. And then if you need to have data purchased, we can give you a quote, and we'll give it to you in quantities of $100 for the data. And if you need QA service, we'll give you in quantities of $100. Typically, it'll be a small number of the QA, as it doesn't take that much to do. So one of the things that people have said to us is, existing products don't cost that much. This is significantly more. But we think the cost, what it is the value that'll be saved will be significantly greater. And we also want to point out here is that if I buy a 3-year service with these $262.50 and $525, for the first 3 years, I'm actually paying less than $22 a month. So if we go back to the value that we start talking about here, is even if I have a site with few installs, but I save myself even an hour and a half, that's far more than the $22. Or even if I just did 1 install and it saves me half an hour of time, you have cnHeat that costs less per month than this 1 install. Okay. If you would like to try cnHeat because it's something that's new and you want to verify that you think it predicts correctly for your environment and you can test it out, we totally understand that. And so what we're doing right now is you can pick a site of your choice, provide us the information, and just do it through ISP Supplies, and just indicate I'd like a 2-week free demo. we'll go ahead and set up the demo, and you can try the site out, and you can see how well cnHeat actually does predict for you on your site. And if there's some things where, for instance, we need to tune the predictions, we'll do that for you too. Sometimes one site's a little different than the other, and we'll get it to the point where, you know, it's to your happiness. And so that's what we're saying is, so for today, you know, give us a try for and we'll give you 2 weeks to try it out and make sure that you can verify that it does what we say it does, predict what it says. If you have further questions, anybody can, you know, please reach out to me. That's my email address, and I'd be glad to talk with you. And if you ever want to even, or I'll email back with you, and if you want to talk, I'd be glad to talk with you too. That's it. So are there further questions there, right, Blake?
Yep, we got a few here. First one from Jeremy is, do you have 1 meter resolution data for the entire US?
There is 1 meter data for most of the United States, not all the United States. So submit your request and we'll look it up and we'll tell you, yes, we have it, or we'll tell you, no, we don't have it, but oftentimes we can tell you it might be available in a few months also. So we'll find that out and we'll get you the answer back.
Okay. The next one from Keith is, it was mentioned earlier that there was a feature to do a site optimization where the location of a site could be moved around within a specified range. What is the cost for doing that? What's the range limitation? And are there any plans to be able to take a group of prospective locations, customer locations, and generate a best location to serve those customers?
Great question, Keith. So I've talked with Keith in the past. I hope you're doing well, Keith. Appreciate your time here. So if I get this correctly, I'm going to read the question again. And I'll try to answer it a little at a time. So it was mentioned earlier that there was a feature to do a site optimization where the location of the site could be moved around within a specified range. And the range we're using right now is approximately 600 feet. And if you're close to that, and just talk to me, we can work with you on it. What is the cost for doing that? And the cost, as we talked about, is $105, which is much less than the site setup fee combined with the subscription. And if, by the way, if you do this site optimization, you can keep both predictions with the subscription. We would never take that away. You can have that for ongoing. What's the range limitation? We're right now at 600 feet. And are there any plans to be able to take a group of prospective customer locations and generate a best location to serve those customers? So I'm not exactly sure of what you're asking, but if you had are there any plans to be able to take a group prospective customer locations and generate a best location to serve those customers? If you're talking within 600 feet, I'm not sure I understand it. If you want, Keith, you can call me and I can specifically answer your question because I don't know if I understand it well enough to answer it right. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand, so sorry. Next question, Blake.
Let's see. Is it using a propagation model? If so, what model? By Cameron?
Yeah, Cameron, we do have a propagation model, but no, I don't want to share the propagation model. That's part of how we do it, and it takes us time to figure that out. And so it's something that we develop and we want to keep internally.
Okay, the next one from Dustin is SM height based on the typical roof line or off the ground?
That's a great question. We've had that several times. So cnHeat, when we do the propagations, right now we don't differentiate between the ground and the building and the tree. So if you say something is 1 foot off, it'll be the same over all of them: the ground, the tree, and the building.
Okay. Does cnHeat support CBRS frequency or LTE frequency? From Ray.
Yeah, so good question, Ray. The answer is we support CBRS frequency, and we're doing it first line of sight, but we are working on and want to release shortly the ability to do near line of sight and non-line of sight. And when we have it ready, we would provide it for CBRS and 2 gigahertz for LTE, and also, of course, 900 megahertz.
We got another comment from Keith. He's clarifying his question here. Can you see that one?
I'll go to the bottom. Yeah. Oh. Hold on. Oh. Is this it? To clarify on that one, if I have a list of, say, 30 people that are in an area, not in my coverage, can cnHeat tell me where I should put a tower to cover them? So you can manually do that by moving the site, and then you can see the best way to do that. And that's part of what site optimization provides. That's a great point, and we want to provide that so it becomes more automated, and then you could like manually you could do that yourself. Something that we would consider in the future.
Okay. And then one more from Larry. As things on the site change, are there charges, say frequencies, channels, number of APs, etc.?
So if you have a site and you want to change a frequency, it takes us work to do it. It propagates differently, although it's still going to be the same through line of sight. If you were to change the frequency to lower when we do the lower frequencies, that obviously will be much different too. So if you change other things, like you change the azimuth, or you change like the height of the device, you are actually asking for a change. So for example, let me go back to this. If we go back to this sheet here, and you have an initial site set up and you modify the site in some ways, that would be a change to the site. And so we would want to do a site optimization if you change the location. If you change like the things that are there, yeah, we would want to do that, because that would, like if you change your SM type, that would change the gain back to the antenna. But then again, if it's not a big deal, so I want to say the answer is yes, but if it's something minor, we can work with you and we'll try to develop a relationship that way to make it as painless as possible. So if it's something that isn't a big deal, I think we can handle it. But if you do something like change something like an azimuth or the type of device, like the AP is going to have a different antenna pattern, that could be different than like, right? I mean, it does cost us extra work. But talk to us on specific cases and we can try to work it out.
Alrighty, I think that's all we got.
Okay, that was great questions. I really appreciate it. If anyone you want to reach out to me separately, I'd be great. Just contact me at my email address, or you can work through Blake and ISP Supplies, and we would love to continue to help you out. I really appreciate your help, Blake, and ISP Supplies, and anything I can do for anybody, please let me know.